And hello and welcome. So this time we are taking a look at the brand new Scrivener 3 for Mac. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Elaine Giles, long-time trainer, podcast host, inveterate geek. My YouTube channel is where you'll find tips, tricks and full training sessions for a huge range of apps. And I've been a Scrivener user since even before the beta. I was a Scrivener user when it was in alpha and there was a product called Scrivener Gold. So if you're here live, let me know what your first version of Scrivener is. Scrivener was initially released for Mac, and it was 2006, 2007, and I got my first Mac in 2006, and that was when I found Scrivener, and it changed my life. Changed my life in terms of how I create materials. So what we're looking at tonight is the new features, a range of the new features. Can't possibly cover them all. There's so many. There's been a huge update. This update is amazing, but I thought we'd focus first on the interface, and you will be seeing this when I actually start sharing my desktop. But so I can do a comparison, I've taken a few screenshots. First thing you'll notice is this is version 2, and it's the info panel on the right-hand side, the inspector. And one of the things that you'll notice as soon as you look at version 3 is how slimmed down it is, how simplified it is, how much more elegant it is, to be honest. Now, if I just flick back, you'll say, oh, there's a lot of information that looks like it's missing. It's not missing, it's moved. But overall, the interface slimmed down. A good example of where you will see that is in the preferences. So if you're with me live, let me know what you think of the preferences. Are the preferences somewhere you like to go, or somewhere you set once and hope never to see again? That's what I do. I make sure they're set up right, and then when I move machines I take them with me, and I hopefully never have to darken its door again. But that's one of the areas again that has been simplified. What we're looking at there is the general preferences, but in Scrivener 3 the general preferences look like that. So preferences themselves have slimmed down and they've been completely reorganized. What you will see on the left hand side is groups. So within your general editing behaviors, appearance, etc., across the top, you will now see groups down the left hand side. So here's another example of that in the appearance, which was the bane of my life. I could just about find things eventually. But again, it's been trimmed down. You've got that appearance at the top, but you've got all of the groupings on the left hand side. So like I say, not too many slides, just wanted to give you that comparison. Now I've actually overwritten my Scrivener 2 install with Scrivener 3, and that's why I can't actually show you that live. But the rest of the demo is going to be live. It's going to be using the very latest version of Scrivener 3. And I've got some demo files to work with, and we maybe even create some files as well. So let me get up Scrivener, and you will see I do have some files open here. I've got a very simple file for a start, which is a demo file, but I have got my other files open behind there. So this one is about as simple as it gets. This one is, I said file new, and I used a very basic starting point. So file new project, I went into here. You'll notice that these are all now much more on brand. So as I go down through all, there's all of them, but I started with the blank one, the very simple one, and I just double clicked on there and I got this file behind me. The only thing I have done with this file is add 2 documents to it. That's all, just 2 things I'll be using later. So first thing to look at is the interface, and we've already said it's much more simple than it was. That's the default when you go in, although I tend to bring up my info, my inspector, as soon as I start. So that's generally my starting point. So let's just have a look at what we've got here. It's much flatter than it was. The colours are much more muted, and that carries through to the entire interface. So on the left hand side, where you have the binder, when you apply colours and you view them in the binder, they're much more muted than they were. They don't have to be. You can change all of that. But generally speaking, it's gone for much more subtle than it was, a more modern approach. Subtlety is the key. So the most noticeable change when we start looking at the interface is the toolbar. And within that toolbar, I think the biggest change is that there used to be a search box on the right-hand side. And it's gone. But fear not, it has been replaced with something far more powerful that we will be looking at down the line, but it's called the quick search. So if you're in the chat live, let me know if you know where that is. If not, you're about to be amazed. So I will come back and look at that. But across the top, you have your standard toolbar. I don't have the labels displayed. That's one thing I don't have displayed. You may decide to have those or not. I don't. Then there has been an update, really big update, in terms of functionality as far as I'm concerned, to the format bar, which is the area just below the toolbar. So above where it says Untitled Document and going across. And the biggest change in there is that you have this option, this drop down that says no style. And when you click on that, there is indeed no style at the moment because I'm not in here ready to edit. But when I click, that bar becomes alive. And as you click down, you can see there are styles available from there. Now, there used to be styles in massive air commas, massive air quotes. But they weren't proper styles. So one of the things I will be looking at tonight is styles. And again, if you're in there with us live, let me know what you would particularly like to learn about tonight. I've got a jam-packed session, so hopefully I will get through it all. There is a lot to look at in terms of it being new, and styles is one of the things I will look at. Moving along, you have the inspector over on the right-hand side that I have toggled off with the I button. And I do have that shown all the time. Your mileage may vary, but it has been really simplified. So we've already seen the screenshots, but in addition to the fact that the synopsis and the notes on that first tab have been simplified, so the information in the middle has gone. So it usually looks a little bit like that when I'm working. You'll notice that the label and the status have moved to the bottom. So right down the bottom of the screen there, we have label, and if I move across, we have status. And they're at the bottom. So as I click on that, you bring up the labels, and as I click on status, you bring up the status. There are some things that have vanished completely from the middle, but fear not, they are in here, as I said. It's just that they have changed completely the tabs across the top. So the first one is notes. The second one is bookmarks. We will be coming back to look at this. Then you've got your metadata, and within your metadata, you'll see your keywords. But you'll also see the information that used to be in the notes or in the first tab. And that is, you've got your general data, but you've got your compile data as well. You also have a new bit there, which is section type. It says section. I'm going to come back to that as well. There's a lot I'm going to come back to. But this is literally just showing you the interface. Then you have your snapshots there. And then you have your comments and footnotes. So everything you need is still there. It's just really simplified down. So that's the interface that you have there. Now, as we look at it, you will see other changes to the interface. So as we start working and I start turning colours on and turning them off, you will see different things. You'll also see things that are very different to how things have worked before in terms of things like the scrivenings. So let me show you that by looking at another file. So I'm going to go down to my Christmas Carol demo. And in here I have a full book. Here's all the information in there. I'm going to open up the whole thing so you can see it all. And we have here scrivenings. I've selected the manuscript, and as I scroll down, you can see everything that forms the manuscript. That manuscript folder is the same as the draft folder. If you're used to seeing it called draft, then you probably didn't start with a novel format template, which I did this time. Now, one thing that you should be noticing in here, there is a separator there. There is a separator. It's underneath that dot. That's the separator. But the separator used to be a solid black line that kind of tapered towards the end. And now it's that dashed line. Now, I'll admit, I'm not 100% sold on the fact it's a dashed line. It kind of upsets my poor eyes, to be honest. But that's one of the things you can change if you want to. But it's one of the things that they have changed in here. Just showing you that that has actually changed. So in terms of the scrivenings. There's other things we will see about that later. Now, while I have 3 files open, which I have, so going up to my window, I have my Christmas Carol demo, I have a file just called demo, and I have a copy of the real file that I use to create MacBites. You don't want to see what's in there, trust me. But it's a real file, and it's the whole file. So keep watching if you're a MacBites listener. You never know what you might find. But it annoys me intensely that I have to flick between them. I have to go up to the window and work between them. I do have a way by doing that I use an application that I can actually navigate within the open files within an app, but I still find it annoying. So if I go up to Window, there is now an option to merge all windows. And it doesn't mean the windows for one open Scrivener file. It means merge all of the open Scrivener files into a single Scrivener window. So let's see that in action. That's it, it's done it. What it has done is created tabs. So now here we have one tab that's got A Christmas Carol in it, moving across. I have another tab that has demo in it, and moving across I have the MacBytes demo file. So let me come out of there and go between the files that way. So now I can navigate between them using tabs, which I like. I really do like that. So that's the interface there. Now, as I've said, there's more things that you will see as we start moving through it. But let's start playing around with this and seeing what we have that is big changes, massive changes. Now, this file is very simple. This is the Christmas Carol file. When I say it's simple, it was started on the novel template and it has the whole novel in it. It also has extra stuff in it. So give me 30 seconds, show you what's in this. In the binder here, you've got the actual text of it. 2 chapters, or what Charles Dickens called staves, have the content separated into scenes. So each individual scene of that chapter. So stave 1, stave 5 have that. The others just have the entire content in one stave. The reason for that is so I can demonstrate to you the new compile options that we have and how they could break and how you can fix them. So that's why I've done it like that. That's the manuscript. Swiftly, we also have characters. So I have character sheets in here that give you a little bit of information about each character. I have also put some places information in here. Don't, from memory, remember putting too much in it, but there's a little bit in there. Then there is the front matter, and all of this came from the template. I've just gone in and changed it where necessary. And I haven't done much actually. I even have the sample cover still there. So that's the front matter folder. Then there's project notes, which I haven't put anything in. Then there's research, which I have actually put things in. I have some sample outputs that came with it. I also have here research notes. I've got places and I've got characters. I've got the entire text again. That's really for demo purposes, so I can reset the file. But I also have illustrations and information about the illustrations that I have in here. So that's what I've got in this file. Now, to show the next bit, I need to go back to my manuscript, and you need to understand something about labels. So labels allow you, there are 2 elements within Scrivener. There's labels and there's status. And it enables you to add metadata to each element of your contact. Okay. Now, at the moment, if we go down to label down here, and I don't want to do it to the entire manuscript, let's do it to one thing at a time. If I go down to label, the labels I have are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. They came from the template. And I have one label that looks more genuine, which is called character notes. And it's got bright red on it. And we have got some elements of in here. If I go into my characters, and I look at these characters here, you can see straight away it populates that label and it says character notes. But at the moment, that's all I've got. Nothing within the manuscript has got anything in it at all. So I'm quickly going to create a couple of labels and apply those labels so you can see how that works. This is not new to version 3, but if I go into edit and just change some of these labels, so I shall change the label that says red and I shall make that to do. So I've not actually started this yet, nothing done at all. Then on the orange, I shall put work in progress. On the yellow, I'll put pending. Probably not the best labels, but it's up to you to decide what labels work for you. I'm going to make green complete. That's where I'm heading. I want everything complete. With the blue, I shall put needs work. And I'll leave the purple. But if I don't need the purple at all, I can just get rid of it by deleting it there. So now I've got some labels. I'm going to click OK on that, and I'm going to apply some labels to this content. So if I want to apply it to one, I have it selected on the left-hand side. I go down to label and I choose complete, or whatever the label actually is, and that has marked it as complete. And there's my contents. Now my contents is not complete. It needs work. It needs work because only 2 of them are links. There's other things that need finishing there. But luckily, Marley and Marley's Ghost, stave 1, is all complete. So I've selected all of them, just to show you that I can go into my outline view here as well. And I have exactly the same information that I have selected on the left-hand side, but the benefit in here is, where I've got label and none of them have got any labels, if I come into here and select them, and I right-click, I can apply the label to multiple pieces of content at once. So now they are all complete. So fantastic, sorted that. We'll say that those 3 there are complete as well. So let's go to label and complete, but we'll say that stave 5 is not complete. So we'll go in there and we will say label wise that needs work. Let's mark them as needs work. Right, now the reason that I have done that and taken a couple of minutes just to show you that, which is exactly the same as it was in version 2, so there is no need to panic, it is exactly the same, is because you have a completely new view in this version of Scrivener. So going up to my manuscript, you should be familiar, because this session is not really for beginners. If you're a complete beginner, there will probably be things you don't understand. But you have 3 main views. You have your Scrivenings view, which shows you all of the content in a prose. You have a Corkboard view, and you have an outline view. So if we concentrate on the Corkboard view, what that is actually showing you is what I have selected at the top level. So I've got the manuscript selected, and within there it's showing me 1 card for each element of the content in there. If I select all of those, I get more cards. Now in here, I can tell straight away I've got 1 element that hasn't got a label applied to it. And that's because this stave 5 here has no stripe down the left-hand side. All of the others do, and that's one way that I can visualise the colour or visualise the status of each element in the binder. Now there are other ways to do that. So for instance, if I go to View and I go to Use Label Colour in, I could say use the label colour on the index cards. And at that point, the entire index card changes and is now represented by a colour, the colour of the label that is assigned to that index card. And the white one here means that that has got nothing applied to it. So that one there, no label, which we can see down here. But I could say that that one is pending and make that slightly different colour. So there we are there. Now I'm going to toggle that off again. So back up to View and back down to Use Label Colour in and take it off the index cards. Because I'm doing all of this to show you the new view. And the new view is down at the bottom and it is arranged by label. So obviously for this view to work for you, you need to understand labels. You need to understand how to apply them, how to edit them, and what you would use them for. And what you would use them for is very much dependent on you. What I use them for could be completely different. A label could be a status, like I've done here. I know there's a status option. I like to visually see my progress. I like to see my work go from red right the way through to green, as you saw in the MacBytes file. If I just quickly go over there, that was the last show. The next show, not quite there yet. Lots of, well, actually it's not too bad, but there's lots of green bits and there's also lots of red bits. So I like to use the colours to represent my progress so they can all go green. If you look down the binder, I like colours everywhere. I've got colours all over the place. I like to see the whole thing go green. So back up here, which is where we're working. We were saying there was a new view and it relies on the labels to work. It is the Arrange by Label view. So clicking on that, what you now have is a view of your contents where each individual element within the binder, so your preface, your contents, your Marley's Ghost stave and working across, the opening scene, Fred's visit, the portly gentleman and everything else is represented on a thread. A label thread. The label thread being the red, the blue and the green. And we also have others up here because there's one label thread for each colour of label. Now most of mine were green. There was a couple, I think, that were blue and we had a peach one. Now the red one at the bottom, actually is a character sketch, so you won't see anything on there. The red one will be ignored. I could actually scroll it down and ignore it. So that's what it's showing you. Now, it's not just a view, that's something for you to look at and admire. You can actually work with these things in here. So this stave 4, I've said it's complete, but what if it wasn't? What if it needed work? Well, I can click on it and I can change the label down here in the lower right-hand side. I can say it needs work. And when I do that, it moves it within that new view. But I don't even need to do that because you might have decided to completely turn that off. You much prefer it in here. You can see more of your label view. You can actually drag these around in here as well, and that changes the label. So it's bi-directional. If I change the label in here to work in progress, it moves that. And if I move it in here, it moves it in the label. So it changes the label for me as well. Okay. Now, somebody's just said in the chat, so thanks for that, Gary, that it looks like a timeline. And indeed, it sort of is. What it's actually showing you is the elements you have in the binder from top to bottom, displayed from left to right. So let's think about that. Let's have a look at staves 2, 3, and 4. It's showing them in the order 2, 3, and 4. Right. But if I wanted to move these, so let me move that one and move it down here, I can actually move these around. Yeah, I need to turn these off, don't I? Come on, let's move these around. That should be moving. You should be moving. Let me show you up here instead. Let me show you if I move. And I'm doing that from there. Now, I do at that stage have to go back and make sure I've selected everything so you can see it. And then I have to go back and put the thing on. But when I do, it will have moved. So where's my moving across? Where stave 3, keep going. And now we have stave 3 and stave 2. So they're the other way around. So it's sort of a timeline, but not quite a timeline. Right, I've got a question which I can answer right now. Can the size of the cards be changed? Your configuration of the corkboard view is configured in the lower right-hand corner where you've got options to change the ratio of cards, the card size, the spacing, and the number of keyword chips that are displayed. So you've got all your configuration options in the lower right-hand corner. Now, one thing I found useful, very useful, was as I was looking at this, yes, it's a timeline, sort of. It's the order of things in the binder. But it helped me to flip it round. And if I go over here, arrange by label, there we are. I've got here an option. So I've got my display in rows and I've also got display in columns. And that actually worked better for me. What helped me was when my other half said to me, oh, that looks like a Kanban board. And I thought, well, given what I personally use the labels for, that's spot on accurate. It is a Kanban board. So I would like to see stuff going to the green from the red over here. So at the moment, if this preface here hadn't been started, I'd need to finish that, and then I'd be bumping it through my work in progress, pending, and over to it's finished. And my contents that needs work, I'd be looking to take that back and do it that way. So that's the new view you've got, is organising it by thread. Bear in mind the thread is a label. So if you're not using the labels and you go into this view, you're not going to see anything. This could very well change how you use labels. You may decide that you've been using them for point of view and now you would like them for locations or any other variation. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't write much in the way of fiction, unless you consider MacBites a work of fiction, which of course it's not. Absolutely bang on spot accurate and realistic MacBites. So for me, I'm going to stick doing what I did before, which is, for me, it's marking my progress. But you can use that in any way that makes sense to you to see any kind of progression. Right, so that's your new view. That is your corkboard threads, or label view as it is known. Now, another big change. So what I'm going to do at this stage is I'm going to come back out and I'm going to go back into my Scrivenings view here so we can see everything up here. There is big changes here, very, very big changes in the way that, in fact, let me know if you used to use project notes. Who used project notes? Project notes used to exist and they were links to content maybe that you use for research that were project-wide. And one of the problems with them was I kept forgetting that I'd put them there. And pretty much as I've read up about Scrivener 3, that seemed to be the problem everyone was having with them. They'd sort of forgotten that they were there. Because of that, they have now created this feature called bookmarks. And bookmarks have taken the place of project notes. The good news is they're incredibly powerful. They are very powerful, a lot more powerful than you would have had with document notes and project notes, because now you'll see, instead of seeing document notes and project notes, you've got document bookmarks and project bookmarks. Okay, let's have a look at that. This is rather a big new feature, so let's have a look at that. So I'll show you first the project bookmarks. No, I won't. I'll show you the other one because we've actually got some of those. So first off, when you go in there shouldn't be anything. There'll be nothing. So to see that, we need to have a document. So let's have a look at the opening. Let's have a look at the opening scene. So I've got the opening scene selected in here. And I don't have any bookmarks in there at all. But I showed you some places and some characters and some research. And part of my research was some illustrations. And I do have here an illustration. And I've got a few more illustrations. And I have covers and all sorts of things. So here we have Marley, who is a ghost at this stage, turned up to visit Scrooge. And that's the second illustration in the book. So going back here, Marley's visit. There we go. So I'm going to go to that one there. And it would be nice if I could get straight to that image from my document. And you can do that by, as it says here, either dragging in documents or external files to create bookmarks. So here is my number 2 file that I can drag in there. And it creates a bookmark for me. Now, you might look at that and think, whoa, what did that do? What did that do? And it's not actually moved it. It's not added it to this content. What it has done is create a link to it. It still exists where it used to exist, but at the bottom, you have a preview. You have a preview of that image. If I wanted to add another image in there, I can add in image number 1. And now when I move between them, I have a preview of the content that is way away in my research folder, way away. But I can also do more than that. So is this number 2 I was interested in? It was what passage that actually illustrated. So I'm going to make sure I'm on Marley's visit. I'm going to grab the passage illustrated and drag it up to there. And that is the actual information about that I probably would want access to from here. Okay, so that allows me to do that. It's a way to link content, and they're now calling it document bookmarks. If I then move on to a different scene, so I move on to the Marley's door knocker scene, you can see that in my documents bookmarks, it's now empty. Okay, that's because those bookmarks I created were specific to that individual document. But I can go back up here, and if I do want to have that number 2 illustration added to that scene, I can do that as well. So no problem with that at all. I just add them as and when I want them. Now, there is a whole different type of bookmark, and that was when you clicked on the drop down there, you have project bookmarks. Now, normally when you create a project from scratch, that's empty. So I'm going to show you in my demo file. If I go over to my bookmarks, which is the second tab, and I go into my projects bookmarks, it's just as empty as the document one was. So it's completely empty. The reason that there is something in my Christmas Carol one is that I started with a template. And the Scrivener templates, when you base work on a template, it gives you a great head start. It creates half the links and things for you. But if you start from scratch, you don't get anything at all. That doesn't mean you can't add it. So if we go back and have a look what that was, it was characters, places and notes, which I don't actually have in my demo file. But I could create that if I wanted. So in my demo file, if I add in a folder and I call that places, and I move it out of my drafts because I want it at the top level. So let's move it back to the top level. And I could also go in there and change the icon so it looks something like places. So we've got characters, haven't we? Locations, there we go. I will make that a map. Right, now I've got that in my demo file. I'm obviously going to want to put content in it. So let me say that I'm going to put something in about a school. And let's say I would like all of the places available, no matter what scrivening, no matter what element of the binder, no matter what document I'm working on. Right, so I'm going into my Untitled at the top. I'll call that Arriving at School. And I would like the places referenced. Now, I've got two options. I can either choose the Documents bookmarks and actually add the school to that. But what has happened in the novel template is this. They've gone to the Projects bookmarks and added the whole folder. And if we flick back and look what we've got, there is the places. So it looks identical. You can replicate it. It doesn't matter if you didn't start like that. You can finish like that. You can make it work that way. Now, I have one place. Let's add another place. So let's add, the church and the school. Now, over here in my project bookmarks, I still only have one entry. I have an entry for places, but that's it. But if I click the drop down over here, it gives me a shortcut to all of the elements that are contained within the Places folder. And that happens at project level. So let's have a look what that looks like in a real file. So over here, I'm working in Marley's Visit, but I'm looking for places. And I'm thinking Marley's Visit was at Scrooge's house. And it would be handy if I could just refresh my memory about the house. So if I click on that, it will load it in to the lower half of that info view on the right hand side at that inspector. So that's a fantastic way of getting information that before you would have had to use a split view for and then load it into the split view, but ultimately you would have had to have gone to find it, and now you don't need to go to find it. On the same principle, because I've got character sketches in there, I can load in my character sketch as well and have it in this lower half of the window. So that is just a huge time saver. So I've got characters, places and notes. I don't actually have any notes in here. My notes would be in this notes folder, which is just above the research. So to do that, let's add a note. Let's put demo note. Struggling to spell demo there, good grief. Right, let's go back to Marley's Visit. And now when I go into the notes, we should see my demo note. And there is my demo note, no content. So let's put content for my demo note. So you can see that I can actually edit it in here as well. So really you can fold up all these things on the left-hand side and not worry about them once you've added the top level folder over here. So up to places, down to notes, choose the demo note, and I'm in there and I'm working away with it. Okay. Now I'm looking at some questions here. Can you do a split view and have each split having a bookmark? Ooh, that's a good one, isn't it? No, I don't think so, but there is a feature that you might be interested in coming up. So hold that thought and then tell me if this other feature might help with that. What will happen if I do a split view? And at the moment I've got Marley's Visit and Marley's Visit, but let's do another one. Up here, I'm looking at my project bookmarks. So I'm seeing the project bookmarks, and whatever I've got loaded in there, as I switch between these, that won't change. Obviously, if what this was showing was my document bookmarks, it would. But it does change. Okay, so I get none on one side and then the ones that I have attached on the other. But there is another feature, so hang on. Right, so that's the bookmarking. I think that is a fantastic feature. It's an amazing feature. Right, I'm going to have to swiftly go through all of this, but it is going to be worth it, trust me. Right, one feature that arrived in Scrivener 2 was custom metadata. And custom metadata used to be over here. We have custom metadata in there. And it would say set up custom metadata. Now, if you're with me live, tell me, have you ever used custom metadata? And if you have, what for? Because I felt custom metadata was something I should be using and could be using because most of my work is non-fiction. And I wanted to track things like dates and stuff like that. But every time I came to think about using it, it was just too difficult. There were just too many obstacles. And when I say too difficult, too many obstacles, one of the things I would want to do was date. But what format would I type it in? Well, was it a long date? Was it a short date? Was it a sort date? Can't remember. And it wouldn't stop me putting in something that wasn't even a proper date. And then I couldn't really do anything with the dates. So it was all a problem and I left it alone. So all of my projects look like that. Set up custom metadata. Right, but now if I go into set up my custom metadata, And what that has actually brought up, if you're wondering where on earth that came from and why there's all this other stuff in it, if I come out of that and go into project and go into project settings, it's in there. So it's just showing me one section within my project settings. This is where I can create some metadata. So why am I bothering now if I didn't bother before? Well, the reason is, as I add my metadata now, and let's say this was the date I wrote it, right? So writing date. Trust me, I've got a better example. This is just the first example. Now, depending on what I would like, I can change the type. I can change it from text. I have 4 options. I've got text, I have checkbox, I have list, and I have date. Date. Fantastic. And when I go into that, on the bottom half of this dialog box, I can change the format of that date. Most of the time, I'm probably going to leave that to short, but I can actually put a custom format in if I wanted to. And you can go in there and that will take you out. It will give you date formats that are supported. So just bringing in a web browser there to show you that that's where it takes you. And that gives you an idea of how you would have to format it if you wanted something specific. So looking at that, minutes, months, years, days. Yeah, what I would do if I wanted to, one of the date formats I use a lot, if I go into here and choose custom, and I can then go in there and format it, is years and months and days in that order. So 4 Ys for the year, 2 M's for the month, but they're capital M's, otherwise they'd be minutes. And then I need my days, which is, ooh, come on, where's my days? Days, D. I need DD for my day. Right, so I'll do it in that format and click OK. And that will allow me to specify a writing date, but better than that, it allows me to choose that date. So let's say I wrote this yesterday and I wanted to do it at a certain time, but time doesn't matter for me, because if we look up there, you can see that it's put it in the format I wanted, which is Y for year, then the month, and then the day. So I don't need to worry about the time, but I can use this dialog box to enter it. And as soon as I start choosing different ones, I can move backwards and forwards. It will update that for me. And then I can come out of that and it has specified my writing date. Right, so when would you use that for real then? Well, if I show you the MapBytes file, which although, as I say, it says demo, was actually created from, I literally took a copy of the real file. If we go across to the custom metadata in here, you can see I have release date. Now, if I go to my, it's actually, I do have this specified. I do. But I've only put it at the very top level. But this piece about Tiger was actually released. I'm trying to remember when it was released now. About 28th of October, I think. So I would go into here. We'll go back to October. No, it couldn't have been. That was a Saturday. Must have been the 26th. And it was 9 o'clock. 7 o'clock. It was 7 o'clock. So I will specify that in there. And now that release date has been specified and it has popped up in my outline here. So what I could do, because all of this in here is just text, but I didn't type it in. Now, that's good to know. That's good to know because all of these were released on the same day. Obviously, they're part of the same show. So all I have to do is to go in there and paste the whole thing in, and they're all neatly done. So it's that fast now to populate my custom metadata. And like I said, I could choose from lists, I could choose text, and I've got checkboxes. So let's go back to my demo file and just show you that you can actually create that. Or did I do it in there? Where did I do it? Oh, I did it in here, didn't I? That's the point. Have a demo file, woman, and use another one. Right, but what I can do in here is I can keep adding metadata. I can go up to there and I can add more metadata. So in this one, I might want to choose, let's say a proofreader. Maybe I have 2 different proofreaders. So proofreader. And this time I want to choose from a list. And I'm going to add a list item at the bottom. So I could have a proofreader of Mike and I could have another proofreader of George. And OK to that. And now I have no proofreader on that section, but I've got a drop down and I can say I'd like Mike to proofread that one. And as I go through this one, I would like George to proofread that one. Benefit of that is I'm not going to make a mistake. I'm not going to mistype George and then wonder why something isn't coming up. Now, let me go back and just select all of this. and go to the outline view. You can see in the outline view, I can't see that element of custom metadata. If I can't see it, I can't work with it. But if I go to the top and right click, my metadata appears down at the bottom. There's my writing date, so I can toggle that on. And I've got my proofreader, and I can toggle that on as well. So if I decide, let's go into that, select everything, but take off George and Mike because they're already allocated, but the rest of it isn't allocated. What I can do with that is say Mike's going to have a lot of work to do. I'm going to right click on there, and I have proofreader straight available from the interface. So you've actually managed, by creating that custom metadata, to retrospectively alter the interface of Scrivener, which is pretty amazing. And I'll allocate that to Mike, and now all of that is in there. You can also see very briefly on my writing date that I've put in there, you even get the calendar option there. You can actually get to that in there. It's indicating to you that it's a date that it wants. So you can put that in there. Now, I've not actually done this yet. Let's try it. Let's try putting in the 1st of the 11th. 17 and see if it fixes it for me. It does. As long as what you type in is a valid date, then it will format it to the custom format you've specified. And I did a very different one for that I would usually use. So the custom metadata is nothing short of amazing. You can also filter by the custom metadata. So let's go and use this as a filter. And I have available there. I'm going to select the whole thing. In fact, let me give George a bit more work, because it's not fair, this is it. Right, I'll allocate George to some of those. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to go into Edit, down to Find, and Filter. So Command and F for filter. And that brings me up this filter box at the top. Now, if I type in there, George, it will actually filter for the proofreader. But what if I had got a character called George, or I had a status called George, or George was in the title? So not really very reliable for that. But I have a disclosure triangle, and when I open that, I can say filter items where, and I want to include items with, and I want this to be a proofreader, where the proofreader is George. And that way it's rock solid. It's doing exactly the same, and just by accident, fortuitous serendipity here, I did actually get the right 3 results, but that way is bulletproof, and the first way wasn't. Okay, so you can actually filter by that custom metadata as well. Right, let's come out of there and let's get on to another new feature. So this was the one I teased you about earlier, which is the quick search. Now, I said there used to be a search, and the search used to be over on the right-hand side of the toolbar, and it has moved. It is in a completely different way now. It's moved to the middle, which is where it's saying preface at the moment. I'm deliberately not going to hover over that, but it's where it says preface at the moment. So if I put on my red dot, it's there. You can just see it covering where it says preface. Right, the reason that I'm not hovering is because it does things. So let's have a look at this. As I click through my contents, you can see that that is changing. It's saying contents, opening, Fred's visit, the portly gentleman. So it's acting as an indication to tell me what scrivening I'm on, what element of my binder I'm on, what document I'm on. But it does a lot more than that. So I'm going to move up and hover over it now. And when I just hover over it, and I'll zoom in so you can actually see it, but all I'm doing is hovering, it gives me the word count in the drafts folder, or in this case, the manuscript folder, and how many words I've written in this session. Yeah, that's impressive, isn't it? It's all right, it was a lot of copy and paste. So it's actually giving me useful information there as well. But that's not all it does. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm holding down the Option key, and I'm going to click on it. And when I do that, it brings up your targets dialog, your manuscript target and your session target. And at the moment, I haven't got either of those. But let's say that my manuscript target was 28,500, because we're almost there. So let's make that 28,500. You can see I am almost there, because that bar has shot up to blue. But something else happened as well, which is above here, there is now a blue line, and my blue line goes tantalisingly close to the end, because the blue line indicates my manuscript target. So if I go in here and decide, no, I'm loving this book so much, I want it to be 40,000 words, you can now see that my blue line is about almost 75% of the way along there. So it is indicating that for me. So the lower bar is the manuscript target. Now, I can also specify a session target. And that blue bar, by the way, stays there even if I close it. So once I have a manuscript target, that stays there. But bringing this back, let's say I want a session target, and my session target is 25,000 words. Right, something's happened now. Whoa, what went on there? Because now, that doesn't look right. Now, I have a bar going along the bottom, but that's more than the 75% of the way along. And this one, well, that's about 75% of the way along at the top. So what happened there? Well, if I just change the session target to be 22,000, you should see what's happened. The bar along the bottom that was the manuscript has now moved to the top, and that's indicating my session target. No, that's indicating my manuscript target is moved to the top. So the manuscript has moved from the bottom to the top, and now the bottom is representing my session target. So you have to be quite careful when you're looking at that. It does make sense if you think that rather than have the blue line at the top, if you have no session target, it's at the bottom. But if you have both, then it matches this dialog box. The manuscript target is at the top and the session target is at the bottom. And as I say, that will stay there as long as you like. Now, from within this dialog box, while we're at it, one of the things that used to be in Scrivener that then disappeared was you used to be able to tweet your progress. And it's got this little button here, which is the Twitter icon, and you can click on there. And it brings up this little thing here, which is your tweet. Now, if you don't see that Twitter icon, don't panic. You have to have your Twitter account set up at system level on your Mac for this to work. If you just use a client or you use Twitter in a browser, you won't see the icon. It just won't be there at all. But if you have it set up in the system preferences, then you will have everything that you have set up in the system preferences, and I've got more than one account there. So I could actually send it from MacBytes or my iBooks Author Training account, doesn't matter, but I'm going to send it from Elaine Giles. And it tells you I've written so many words, so 21,606 words written in Scrivener app today, 11,856 words to go, I'm writing. So it's a great way to share it. Right, what I'm going to do though, because I'm actually going to tweet this, and if you're here with me live, go try and find it. Let's see if it works, because I wanted to test this last night. My internet went down and I couldn't, so I've no idea if it works. I'm trusting them. So I'm going to put a little bit extra, which is I'm training Scrivener live on YouTube right now. I can't spell either. Right now. Okay. And I'm demoing the stats. There we go. Now, I'll also, while I'm up there, hashtag that Scrivener right now. And it's also hashtagged I'm writing as well. So it's ready to go. It is ready to go. Apart from the fact it's telling me I'm minus 34 on the character length. Oh dear. That's not good, is it? Reason being, I'm assuming it's thinking 180 characters and I've now got 140 characters and I've got 280. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that off and let's try and get it down. I only need that. I'll lose the word written. Let's get it down. Come on. I only need 4. Let's lose today. I don't know if this would work if it had more than 140 characters. There's a question for the developer, but never mind. I've got it underneath. I've got it under, only just, but I am under. So let's go. So let me just post that. And it's gone. Someone can now tell me whether that actually appeared on Twitter, because if I go, I'll never get back to the training. And we want me to get back to the training, don't we? Right, so there was some stats, a little aside on the stats. But when I started talking about this fantastic little dialog box up the top, it was because I said it was taking the search feature, and it had moved it. I now know that tweet's gone and it's arrived. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Right, so it's also a search box. Wow, how's it a search box as well? Well, if you click on it, you can search. So if I click on it, I'm into the search feature now. This is the quick search. So within here, what I want to look for is something that I know is there, which would be a good start, wouldn't it? How about turkey? It's Christmas after all. Let's have a look. Turkey. Now, what it brings back is First of all, it brings back a title. There is a scene called The Turkey, and there is. It's over on the left-hand side in stave 5, The Turkey. So if I click there, it will take me straight to that whole scene. But turkeys were also mentioned within the text multiple times by the look of it. Right? They've sold the prize turkey, swallowed a fictitious turkey. There's all sorts in there, right? Now, the difference is, if I elect to go to the scene, so let's do that, it will take me through to the scene and back to the place I was before. But if you look where my cursor is, it's just under the middle of Scrooge there, and it's not actually on the word turkey. So I'm going to go back. Turkey's still there. And now I'm going to look down to it. And it's this bit I was interested in. Have they sold the prize turkey? If I press return there or click on that, it will actually take me through and show me the bit where it actually has the word in the results. So, quick search, it is amazing. Now, I actually use it in a different way. I don't even bother with the mouse going up there. There's a shortcut key for this as well. And it is Control, Option and G for go. And that takes you to exactly the same place. So if I put in there Tiny Tim, that should give me lots and lots of results. Now, one of them is a title, and it's a title of a character sheet. So although we've looked at navigating characters on the right-hand side using the inspector, you could, if you wanted, navigate your characters just by typing in there. So let me know in the chat if anybody uses Alfred or Launchbar or anything like that. It's really like that. It's a global search for your entire project. And you can use it to navigate in terms of drilling right down into the text. Or you could also use it at a top level, a higher level, and use it to go via title. So we could go to Tiny Tim. And considering he's one of the main characters, I shamefully haven't filled anything in there. But you get the idea. You get the idea. So that quick search is pretty amazing. Now I'm going to go back to it. So activate it back again. Now, what the search used to do, it didn't do that. It wasn't that clever before. But what it used to do was it did a full project search, and it gave me a set of search results that were persistent. I could leave them on the screen and have a look through them. And that option is still available. It's down there at the bottom as full project search. So going and doing that. And now that brings up my search results version 2 style on the left-hand side, where they are available for me to just click through and have a look. Was that what I meant? Was that what I meant? Was that what I meant? And clearly, obviously, it's picking up time of day when I meant Tiny Tim, as in Tim with a name. So no, that's not what I meant. But there could be bits in there that I obviously am looking for. I think when I did it last time, I looked for Cratchit. And that's such an iconic name. It didn't come up with anything else. But that's how it works. And then to close your search results, you just close them in the top left-hand corner. And you can do all of the things that you used to be able to do with that set of search results in terms of making collections and anything like that you wanted to as well. Right, okay, now let's get on to another big feature. This, for me, one of the biggest features in there, styles. If you're with me live, do you love styles? Do you love styles as much as I do? Because it's the one area that Scrivener wasn't really all there, and I could understand why. The rationale of Scrivener is what it looks like during your drafting phase is not what the final output looks like. There was a complete separation between your work in progress and your finished work product. And I fully understood that. But for me, I'm going to spend 99.999% of my time with a work in progress. If you think about the MacBytes file, which again is a genuine file, when I'm working and I'm writing all of this stuff up, and an average MacBytes is something like 12,000 words when I've got, and that's not what we speak, we probably speak about 30,000 words, but I actually put in all of the points for the review and things, and that way if I'm looking for it I can go back later. So there's a lot of words in there, but at the end of it I just have a very small 2 outputs I have, and I use them once and bin them, and that's it. But I come back to this and I use it all the time. So I like my formats to be formatted correctly in my Scrivener file. I'm not just interested in my output, I'm interested in what it looks like and being able to change my formats from within Scrivener. Now, if you've ever used styles before, a genuine style is a recipe of format, so it could be bold and italic and underline and green and highlighted in yellow, that is applicable to some text. You can apply it to some text, Now, at that point, it sounds pretty similar to style presets, format presets they used to be known as, but they're not quite the same. There's a difference. Styles take format presets and take them a step further. With a format preset, you applied it, and then you applied it to a second place and a third place, and then you decided you don't want it italic anymore. They were your quotes, but you don't want it italic anymore. You would have to go through and change every instance. It was not automatically updatable. So format preset, a starting point. Style, a recipe. And updatable. Oh, this is exciting because I love styles. Now, it ships with some styles already. So let's have a look what it actually ships with in here. I'm going to be using this text here, and I will regret this, but I shall use it anyway. Right, let's say this bit here is what I'm interested in formatting. At the moment, it has no style. If I click on the drop down, these are the styles that are already within Scrivener. And no style is the default. But let's say I want this to be a block quote. I want that to be indicated that it's a block quote. So it's slightly smaller and it's indented a little bit. Other than that, not much difference. But that is now a block quote. So let's do it to this one as well. Go back and block quote. And we'll have one more. So you've got 3 instances of that block quote. And just to show you, that applied to the whole paragraph. If I go and I click up there and I go to block quote, I didn't actually have to have it selected. I've gone for a code block this time. I didn't actually have to have it selected. It applies paragraph wide. But, and I'm just going to undo that, if I wanted something highlighting, like we wanted here, I'm behind my time, and I wanted to draw attention to that with a highlight. One way to highlight it is just to go in there and highlight it. So now it's green. But what I found better was to make a style. And I've got this called code. That's because it's a real style. Now, why would I bother creating that, and why didn't it apply to the whole paragraph? There is a distinction between paragraph styles and character styles. Paragraph styles automatically apply to the whole paragraph, irrespective of whether you have it selected or not. Character styles only apply to the characters that you actually have selected at the time. So they're great for something like a highlight, or for making something bold, italic, underline, something like that. But why bother making that a style? And actually, you don't need to. You've just seen me make it green. The reason I did bother was, let me show you the real file. If I go into the real file, and I can show, well, can I show you? Oh, let's have a look at 108, and let's have a look at that. No, that's Lady Siri, we don't want that. Let's go up there. Right, this is the beginning of my file. And this is what we have with our code in it. And there is actually some code that goes on our shows page. So all we have to do is copy and paste that into our web page, and we're done. And it's better for me, it's quicker for me if that's highlighted. And I know that if it's orange, that's the code, copy, paste, done. But what if down the line I want to use the orange for something else? Then I would have half of my file highlighted in orange that at the time meant code and now doesn't mean code, because code's now green. That's a problem. That's the problem that styles solve for you. So in here, I've got that highlighted as orange. I'm going to make sure that that is highlighted in a different colour shortly. So let me just apply that style a couple more times, and then let's go in and actually edit this stuff. Right, these block quotes that we've got, all right, but they don't particularly say block quote to me. I would like that to be italic. I would actually like it to be a different colour. So what I'm doing is I'm going in and I'm formatting it. Let's say I wanted a sort of orangey or an orangey brown colour like that. Now at this stage, I have applied local formatting, which has overridden the block quote style. It has not disapplied the block quote style, that's still there. If I select into it, it's still saying block quote at the top. But I have applied local formatting over the top of that. Now, what I really would like is all of my block quotes to update. And I know you're thinking, well, you said that's what it did. It does, but you have to do one more thing first. So what I'm going to do is open up my styles panel. This is my styles panel. And in my styles panel, I can actually right-click on my block quote and I can choose to redefine it from the selection I have. So I'll do that. When I do that, it opens up the redefine dialog box. And I don't really need to do much else with that. I just want you to redefine it. Don't want you to do anything else, just redefine it and save it. So OK to that. And I have done that. No, come on. I want you to work. Why are you not working? Oh, this so worked. This has been working all week. Right, I want you to do this. Come on. Let's include everything. All formatting. Where you go. And update for me. Right, here we go. Right, your block quote style will be updated throughout the entire project. That's exactly what I want. It may take a while. Depends on the size of the project. But look what happened this time. All of my block quotes got updated. So when I've updated this, I haven't changed the built-in styles. I've edited my own and I was saving all of my options. That's why it worked first time for me and why I needed to change that option. But that worked and they're all updated. And you can do that as many times as you like. So going in here, if I decide I don't like the brown, and this is usually what happens. Usually with me, it's a client, don't like the brown, want something else. So let's say I make that green. Again, I go back into my block quote, redefine it from the selection, and OK on that. You can say you don't want to see this message again, but I'll leave it for the moment and it will all update. Fantastic. Now let's talk about this highlighting the code one. At the moment, that is orange, but I said, what if needs must and it needed to be that green colour? I can make that green. It's a character style. It's only applying to that. So I'm going to select it. The definition is in the characters part of this. So we have paragraph styles at the top. We have character styles at the bottom. I'm going to go down and redefine my character style from there. And OK to that. Yes to update it. And now anywhere that I had highlighted with the peachy coloured highlight is now highlighted in green. That is the reason why I bothered in my real file to make a style for highlighted code. And my character was called highlight code. I intend down the line to have highlight question, highlight quote, whatever I would genuinely create, whatever I would use in this file, and I will create styles for that. So that's working really well. The style implementation is great. It gets better than that though. There are other things that this can do. So one of the things is, once you've got a style like that, any other application like Word, you need to apply a style. You can't really have no style because no style is a style, if you will. In Scrivener, you can actually have no style, meaning that you don't have to have a style for everything. If you're working with a work of fiction, it's probably better, more flexible, if you don't have a style on everything. If I'm honest, there's a chance I probably will. Because as I say, 99% of my time is spent in Scrivener. It's not spent anywhere else. But in here, if you do want to remove a style, you can just select it, click remove style, and that style is taken away. And it is returned to what it considers to be the default, which you set up in your preferences. So back in your preferences, in your appearance, where's your styles? Where are our styles? Our styles are in here somewhere, aren't they? Our default styles. We want, not binder, composition. It's somewhere in there. Where are we? Editing, formatting. There we go. You specify it in there. So that is what it uses as no style. No style is what's set up in there. Okay, and you'll see that mine is set up for Avenir font rather than the default that it ships with. So that's what it actually does with it. You can also, if you've been through this, and this will have happened to you, I know it will, you'll have gone through and you'll have done things. So let's apply, in this case, we'll put a pink style on it and we'll do that there. Right, and we'll do one more down here. Right, you've got these, they're not styles, they're just local formatting. You have some options in here where you can select a style range or you can select similar formatting. That looks hopeful. So I'm in the green, it selected that. But if I were in the pink and I went back and I did the same thing, select similar formatting, it has selected all of the elements that were highlighted in pink, even though they didn't have a style, which is fantastic because it means I could either create a style and apply it, even though there's no connection between those elements, or I could actually apply my style like that. And now they're all hooked in together. If I now change my highlight code to be pink, then all of them would update to pink. So let's do that. So I'm not proved myself to be a liar. That's now green. Go in there, redefine my character from selection. It's green. Okay. Yep, to update everything, and all of them get updated. Styles, amazing. You can also navigate via styles. So if I'm in there, I can move backwards and forwards between elements that I have formatted a specific way. So if the idea of styles is that you mark things up semantically, and semantic markup means by what it means. So a quote or a question or a code in my case. So I can navigate by code block. So styles are amazing. I could talk about styles all night. There's lots of things in there that I can do, but I'm going to have to leave it alone because we've got other things to do. Even better things. Well, maybe not better, but just as exciting. Just as exciting. So that's styles. And I adore styles. Lovely. Right, okay. Copyholders. Copyholders, great new feature. So I'm going to go back into here, and the first thing you need, well, actually you don't need to do this. You could do this with one view, but I need to show you that up till now, if you wanted to reference two parts of your manuscript or your document, you had the option to use a split view, which is up in the top right corner. And then you can toggle back to single view. You can also hold the Option key down, and I appreciate that is incredibly tiny, but if you hold the Option key down, it toggles from horizontal to vertical and back again. So I pretty much have my split like that all the time. Right, so I have there my split view. That was the only way. What you would do is you would make one of them active and you would click on something else, and now I'm comparing the opening scene with the Marley's door knocker scene. But there is a new way, there is a new kid on the block. So I'm going to go back to one editor, and this is the opening, but I want to reference the Marley's door knocker scene. So I'm going to right click on it, or control click, and I have an option here to open, and I have got the open it in other editor, and that does exactly as it would imply, just what you've already seen. Can also open it as quick reference. Now if you've never seen quick reference, that's what quick reference looks like. It's another window with just that in, that is completely independent, and you can scale and leave lying around wherever you want to. That's quick reference, but there's another option. So open in, and it's copy holder. And when you choose copy holder, it has opened it in a copy holder over there. This is a copy holder. It's slightly different. It doesn't have all of the features that an editor has. You can see the editor is still the main editor. At the top here, there's one scene. This copy holder down here on the right is separate. It's not a fully fledged editor. It's a copy holder. And I can close that copy holder. Where copy holders really come into their own is here. So I'm going to open up both. So I have two editors, my left and my right, making sure I've got Marley on the right. This time I want to reference Marley's visit. So I right click on it and I say open in copy holder, and you're thinking, but you've only got two halves of this. But if you open it in a copy holder now, it opens it at the bottom of the window, and I can make it taller or shorter, and it's subordinate to the editor on the right hand side. Let's say I want to refer to something else, the scene where Scrooge awakes, but I want this on this side. Another way that I can do that is to drag, we don't want Marley's visit, no. We want Scrooge awakes. You can drag that up to there, and I'm holding the Option key down. And when I hold the Option key down, it opens it in my copy holder. So really, you have a way now with your copy holder of having 4 elements open on your screen within the interface. You still have the option to have those quick reference panels, but you can have extra elements open. And you're not limited here to just elements from within your manuscript. So let me close that one, and let's say we want to refer to some of our research. We want to refer to some of our illustrations. We're looking for inspiration here. I would like to open that in a copy holder. And it does. It opens it in a copy holder down there at the bottom. Now, what I can also do with my copy holders, in addition to closing them, which you've seen me do with the little tiny cross, is I have an option here to turn a copy holder into a quick reference panel. And as I do that, it opens up my quick reference panel. And there is that element in there. Now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a similar thing with something else, though. So I'm going to choose a fairly shortish, let me think, where did I have? Didn't I have here some with some bookmarks in? Can't remember which one it was now. Was it one of these? Doesn't look like I did. But never mind, let's do it anyway. We'll do it with this opening one. Right, what I would like to do with this opening one, we'll have Fred Visit in there, and I want to open the opening one in my copy holder at the bottom. And I want to work with this, but I want to work with it in my quick reference. I can do whatever I want in there. I've got all my styling options. I can mark things as complete. I can change my labels. I can do all of that. But I have a little button down in the lower left-hand side. If I click on there, it opens up my bookmarks. You should know where these are from. These should be familiar. These bookmarks are your document-wide bookmarks, and they provide you with navigation to quickly get to where you want to be, elements you want to look at, so Scrooge's house, in this reference over here. Now, I wish I could show you, but you're only sharing my screen and you can't see it. I have 3 monitors. Pretty much need that for what I'm doing when I'm live on YouTube. But when I'm working in Scrivener, I could actually have this quick reference panel that's over the top of my Scrivener at the moment on one of my other screens, and I could leave it there full screen and navigate between my characters, my places and my notes and anything else that I wanted as a system-wide bookmark in there. So I should really pause for effect and let that sink in because it's pretty amazing. I won't because we haven't got time. We've got so much to see. But this is how you can work with this. You can add an internal bookmark, so you could add a specific one. Obviously, I'm going to be working with Scrooge a lot, so I might want to just add that character rather than navigate via my characters. I might also want to add elements from within my manuscript. So say I'm struggling with my last scene of Keeping Christmas. I want to add that. You can also add external bookmarks and other elements as well. So let's say I just want to put a link into my own website. So Elaine's website. Always dangerous typing live, you know. Luckily I have that where I just need to do that and it will load that in. So there is my website. It will say, do you want to load the website? I will say yes, and it will go away and it will load my website. And it's all done in a totally separate window from your main Scrivener window. And once you've got loaded what you want loaded, you don't need to see that anymore. You can just fold that down and carry on with that. So there is my website in there. But if you want to navigate to something else, you can open it up and then close it again. And that started life, if you remember, as one of these copy holders down at the bottom. So amazing. Right, I know we are 1:15. I said 1/2, so I'm going to have to motor because, believe it or not, we've still got tons to see. And one of them is, of course, compile, and compile is just stunning. So let's quickly go through and have a look at some other stuff. Right, I'm going to very quickly go through a couple of things here by selecting the entire manuscript and getting some of it. Let's go down here. Don't need this at 125% actually, do we? We'll see more if we go down to 100. It's me that needs glasses. Right, there we go. Lots of dialogue there. Right, one thing I'm going to show you. There is some new writing tools in here. So I'm going to go to Edit and down to Writing Tools. And I'm in here, aren't I? I need to be over there. Right, Edit, Writing Tools. And within here, I have an option to look at the linguistic focus of my document. Sounds good, doesn't it? Let's have a look at that. My linguistic focus dialogue is this one. And it allows you to focus on specific elements within your prose. The easiest one to demonstrate, because I don't know about you, but prepositions and conjunctions, they don't really feature heavily in my technical writing, but hey, they probably do in yours. For me, in A Christmas Carol, I'd probably most be interested in direct speech. And if I toggle that radio button on, it dims out anything in my manuscript that isn't direct speech. So my direct speech is in black and all of the other elements are in grey. So I can really focus on my speech there. There we go. And yeah, that's pretty accurate, isn't it? That is pretty accurate. Apart from, yeah, no, that's right as well. Thought that one was wrong, but no, it's right. It's spot on. You can also focus on other elements like nouns, and it's going away and looking through there for nouns, and pronouns, and verbs, doing words. There we go. So you can do all of that with a linguistic focus. I think my main use of that will probably be direct speech. Of course, for me, in what I do, MacBites, I don't tend to write the Siri bits. Obviously, Siri's real, but I don't tend to write them in quotes. Maybe I need to do that. There's something to think about. So that's a linguistic focus, just very quickly showing you that linguistic focus. Another thing I thought was really interesting was, let me get to the top of this. Right, here. I have here a half-written table of contents. If we just click on contents, it will show you. I'm sure this used to load into the same editor, but if I click on it now, it opens that up over here. When I click on that, it loads it up into the other editor automatically. Of course, I am 3 links missing. Right, you can, of course, add a link to that. So I think you can do that, link to document, and then go and find the document from your manuscript, and it is actually stave 3, which I've got in the wrong order, but that's one way to do it. Don't know if you're aware of this, but there is another way to do it. So we have staves 4 and 5 there, which just happen to be over here. There's 4, there's 5. With them selected, if you go to Edit and you go to Copy Special, you can copy those as a table of contents. So copy. And then I'm going back to my contents. I'll put them a little bit lower so I don't delete the first pair. And when you paste in, you actually get that, which is slightly different than what I've got above. By doing it as a table of contents, I also get page numbers when it compiles. Ooh, that's good, isn't it? So what I could actually do is replace the whole thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, I really need 2 to be in the right place. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go back, edit, special, copy as a table of contents, back to contents, and let's replace that with one with bookmarks in. So the page numbers will come through automatically. Amazing. And let's get rid of that one and then put them up. So I've sorted that out as well. Right, let's go across. Another thing that's in there is a writing history. You won't find too much of it for this, to be honest. If I go in there to writing tools, where's my writing history gone? Where have you gone? Oh, you're not in there, are you? Let me find you. Writing history, writing tools. Writing history, where are you? Where are you? Oh, you're not in there either, are you? Let me type history. History. There you are. You are there. That's right. You're at project level, aren't you? Oh, I should mention version 3 moved all the menus around. Can't find a thing. Sure, I'll get there in the end. Right, what this is giving you is all the words that have been written in November, and then I've only been working on this file for a couple of days. It's a demo file, and you can see that on the 22nd there were 6,000 odd words, and on the 23rd, got a lot of work done today, there's 21,000 words, and you can work out there the average per day. You can do it by maximum, minimum. You can work out days and months, or months only, or days only, and you're not limited to words either. If you count in characters, don't we all at times to get a higher count? You can do that as well. So that is the writing history. Okay, couple of very quick things before we look at the compile. And that is back in my demo file. I had one called bad import, and I'm sure we've all seen files that look like that. Problem with this file is there are random spaces in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sometimes there's 5, sometimes there's less. Let's put a few more in. Basically, the import, not good. Not good at all. So if I select all of that, and I go into Edit, and I go down to Text Tidying, I have some options, and one of them is to replace multiple spaces with single spaces. Oh, amazing. As I do that, it tidies the whole thing up for me. You will have noticed when I went in there was another option, and that is to remove the empty lines between paragraphs. Let's do that as well, why don't we? Now that one there is because there is a tab in. That was me, naughty me. So it completely tidies it up, and you can get a gap between those with the formatting. or whatever you need to do. But there's basically ways that you can tidy up now. The other way that I like to tidy up, because Scrivener doesn't automatically number things for me, what I have here is a bit of a problem. There are 4 steps to the new compile feature: 5, 7, 3 and 6. Obviously they're not. It should be 1, 2, 3 and 4. I could go in and do that by hand, and believe me, many times I already have. But I'm not going to this time. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to Edit, Text Tidying, and I'm going to say renumber the paragraphs for me, please. And it does. Not only does it do that, it ignores the one that wasn't numbered in the first place. So just 2 little options there that are pretty amazing. Right, compiling, because I know you all love compiling. Who doesn't love compiling? Me. Compiling. Right. The idea behind compiling is you are in Scrivener working as a work in progress. It's your workshop, your writer's toolkit. It's not the finished product. These days, you don't tend to want one version of your product, whatever it is, be it a book, be it training materials like mine or a podcast like mine. You want different versions. You may want a paperback, you may want a simple PDF for reading, you may want an EPUB, a Kindle book, an iBook, whatever. You may want lots of different formats. And that's why Scrivener has always divorced the creation from the finished product. To get from your creation here to your finished product, you use the compile option. Now, first of all, I will show you a very basic compile with this file here. This one was created based on the blank template. So it's as plain as you get. It really is as plain as you get. There's just 2 things in there, and I'm going to compile. So that was file. I always use a shortcut. It's compile, isn't it? Yep. File compile at the end, but I use the shortcut of Command Option and E. Now, this is the new compile dialog. It is easier, believe me. It's just you'll have to get your head around it. So let's have a look what we've actually got in here. You still need to compile for a destination, for print, for PDF, for rich text, whatever you need to do. I'm going to make this a PDF. Then you work from the left-hand side across to the right-hand side. So you choose your format. So at the moment it says default, which I could happily leave it at. That. There are other options that are available, and this is when it starts to get problematic. Because as soon as I move away from the safety of the default, I get this big message box in the middle, which is telling me that I don't have any layouts assigned to my sections. Whoa, what's going on? Well, let me first of all go back to the default and just prove the point that it will actually export something. It will use this format in the middle. This is called a section layout. And it will use this format to format it. Now, if I want to edit those formats, I can do that. I can go in and edit the formats. And I can also, over on this side, on the right-hand side, choose what I apply it to. So I've got no content in that arriving at school. So I just want these 2 elements exporting. As a PDF, default format doesn't get easier than that. And I'm just going to compile that. And I will just stick that on my desktop, at which point it should open in PDF Expert. I'll take that full screen and we'll take that down from 220% so we can fit the page, and there's my content. There's just 2 pages in there, and there is my output. So you can get output from it at a very, very, very basic level. But it does get more complicated than that, and that's good because it gives you solutions to problems, which this one actually does have problems. Right, so we're going to do a real one now. This was created using the Scrivener template, novel template. So technically, it should just work. Practically, of course, I've broken it. I've done things in the best spirit, obviously, not intending to break anything, but inadvertently, my decision, or Charles Dickens' decision, to write in staves and have scenes within staves or chapters is going to cause problems on an export. But the essence of the new export is the new compile. There are 4 steps to it. The first of which is to set up section types within your document. Now, you might think, well, this sounds complicated and it sounds like there's more to it than there used to be. There is, but it's going to make it easier. So if you go into Project and you go to Project Settings, the very first option is Section Types. And section types have been specified in this template as part headings, chapter headings, scenes, chapters, headings, sections, front matter, and not applicable. They are the section types that are available. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, at the moment, not much in terms of anything physical that you can see. All you're doing at this point is telling Scrivener what chunks you have in your Scrivener file. That's all you're doing. Oh, I have part headings and I have chapter headings and I've got some scenes and I have chapters as well. That's all you're doing at this stage, okay? Now, I'm going to come out of there and I'm just going to show you something. We're going to go into this in a couple of minutes. But in here, with my podcast, I don't have chapters and scenes. It doesn't work like that. I have shows. I have max bytes shows. Show 101, 102, 103 and so forth. Within each show, so let's have a sneak peek at 109. Within 109, I have contents, welcome, back bytes, chat bytes, reality bytes. These are the sections of the show. So, show has sections. Sections have pieces or elements of content. So within back bytes, we had something from Evie and Derek and Morefolk, etc., etc. These are the actual elements of the show. So in here, if I go into my project settings, all I have is the show, sections and pieces. That's it. I don't need anything else. I don't need chapters and headings and with references and covers and all sorts. That's all I need. Show, section, piece, done. That's it. So just to show you how very, very different they are, but in a good way. Because previously it wouldn't have mattered if I was trying to get this Christmas Carol out to a paperback or export my podcast. I would have had to have used the same ideology to do it. And it was hard, believe me. I did it, but it was really difficult. And now it's a lot easier because all I need to do is tell Scrivener what each piece actually is. Now, how do I do that? Well, if we go across, we'll start off over here. We have our bookmarks, don't we? And we have our metadata. And within our metadata, we have section type. And at the moment, it's set to section. If I click the drop down, what we actually have is either to use the old system, which is structure-based, or actually tell it, well, this is front matter, or this is a scene, or this is a chapter. This is how you would actually do it, piece by piece. So let's have a look by selecting the whole lot and going into the outline view, what each bit is. And that's in the column called section type. We have section, section, chapter, scene, scene, scene. We come down, we've got chapter, 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 and then scene. Not too sure whether they need to be sections or not. Preface, contents, they could be something else. It's going to depend on the next step. Well, actually, it's the last step, which is I need to tell Scrivener what each of these should look like. So, for instance, I don't want a scene to have a title, but I do want a chapter to have a title. So somewhere here, I have to tell Scrivener that. So let's carry on down the process here. We've gone through section 1, step 1, which was go into the project settings and create the section types. And we've done step 2, which we've assigned the section types to the documents. We've done that too. We're going on to choose a compile format now, which is in here. And now the default looks very different. We have all of this in the middle here. Now, how we do the next bit is we choose the format we want on the left, which is just a default at the moment. And then we go to assign section layouts. And for each element of our manuscript that we have defined, we choose over on the right here what we actually want it to look like. So think about that section. We have 2 sections. It was the intro and the preface. What do we want that to look like? So the question here is, do you want it to have a title or not? If you don't, map it to that instead. If you don't want the text, map it to that instead. Well, actually, we want both. So we want a section, text section with heading. That's what we want. So we've mapped it. And it's as simple as that. You go through each one of these and you map it up to whatever it needs to be over on the right-hand side. So we're okay with that. That's fine. We've done the middle bit and it works. Over on here, we have it set up so we know what we're exporting, and we're actually taking the entire manuscript. Now, while I do this, if you're still with us, and we're pushing an hour and a half, aren't we? But it won't be much longer now. A few more minutes, because I know compiling's the huge thing and you want to see it. Right. Let me know if you think this will work or not. I'll let you have a look at that for a couple of seconds and tell me if you think it'll work or not. For a start, we've got chapters in there. Now, I have got some chapter headings in, and I've got some scenes in, and I've mapped them as scenes. So technically speaking, it should work. So I'm going to compile that while you have a little think about it. And I will export that. It will open it up for me because it's a PDF. It will open it up in PDF Expert. And there it is. That looks fine. Looks absolutely fine. That page looks all right. My preface is there, and there's a title, and there is the text of the preface, and there's my contents. All looking good so far. Over on the right-hand side, it's built a structure for me. If I go and have a look at chapter 1, there's my content. Marvellous. Looking great. If I go to chapter 5, marvellous. Looking great. Let's have a look at chapter 2. Not quite so great. I've got stave 2, stave 3, stave 4. What went wrong? I don't have any content. Now, I can tell you that one thing you will have noticed, what did stave 2, 3 and 4 have in common? Well, they didn't have any scenes. If we look at that, the content that was within them, let's have a swift look there, it was just in the chapter. It wasn't segmented in any kind of way at all, but it was there. So technically it should have come through. Well, technically maybe, but no, because I made a mistake. I made a mistake, not Scrivener. Scrivener did exactly what it was told to do. Let's have a look what it was exactly told to do. It was told in here, in our section layouts, that if something was formatted as a chapter, wasn't a chapter, was it? It was a section. Was it a section? What we formatted as? What do we format you as? Let's come out and have a look. I'm going back to quickly have a look. What was that formatted as? You were a chapter heading, that's right. You were a chapter heading. Me, it was a chapter heading. So let's go into here. What does a chapter heading actually look like then? And it's what you select the type on the left. It shows you what it looks like on the right, and that's your problem. The chapter heading has been mapped to only show the section title. And that's why there's no content. Well, that wasn't clever, was it? What it needs to be mapped to is the text section with heading. So when I have chapter heading over here, I really need it mapping to that. But actually, no, that's not right either. Because if I really genuinely did want a chapter heading, I'd just want the heading. So I've broken it. What do I do? Right, well, you can fix this a different way. Let's go back into here and let's fix it the proper way. Don't think that you're working across from the left and you have to fix it at that point. Sit down and carefully think, what's the problem? Well, if we look at the content, we can immediately see the problem. Right, stave 1, Marley's Ghost, chapter heading. True, because the content's in the scenes. Stave 5, the end of it. Chapter heading. True, because the content's in the scenes. But stave 2, 3 and 4, no, they're not chapter headings. They are actually the proper thing. They're the full chapter. I want the whole thing. It's a chapter. Or in this case, it could actually be a section because that would work as well. So let's say that each of these is a section in my document. It's a full section. I don't just want the heading. I want it to be the full section. By doing that, you can see in the middle that by making something a section, it's going to look like that block. So this one's a scene that I've got here. What's that going to look like? You scroll down what's available, you find scene, that's what it's going to look like. Okay, so it's a bit of a cascade this, but now I fix the problem by changing the section type. I'll recompile it and that should be okay. Yes, I want you to replace it. Yes, I want you to open it up. And this time, I think it's worked because we've got more pages. There's stave 2 in the text, there's stave 3 in the text, there's stave 4. So we've managed to export that completely. Right, I'm going to do one more compile on this one, and then I'm going to show you something that will blow your mind to wrap up. Right, I just did the default one. But what if I'd wanted a manuscript in Times? Well, that's okay. I can do that. I can format it as that. All the formats have changed in my list here. So I'm going to get it in a different font, but it's all mapped together. That's fine. So I'll compile it out to that and put on there, that was Times. So we'll put Times at the end. And another one that I do is a very modern one. So now we have a complete manuscript of it there with all its content in that format. And the last one that I'll do from here is my preferred one when I'm proofreading it, which is something more modern. So a nice modern font. Don't want that called that. We want it called modern. And out it goes. And I had to do very little. In fact, all I had to do was fix my own mistake. I hadn't told it carefully and properly, hadn't matched the sections up with what they actually were. I told it that you only do the heading. So it was me that did that. Okay, that worked really, really well. Last thing to blow your mind, because we're overrunning by 10 minutes already, but hey, we're having fun. We're having fun and we got the chat yet. Right, I'm going to show you something which is the MacBites demo. Right, I have some compiles in here. This is not a book. This is not a book. This is recording notes for when we record the show. I want recording notes out of here, but I also want show notes. So I want two completely different things. I don't even want the same content in these things. To make this work, I'm going to have to go in to my outline view so you can see my contents. And I'm going to select the whole lot, everything that was show 108, and I'm going to compile it. So I've got my selection, going to compile it. I have two new formats that I have made. MacBites recording notes and a MacBites show notes. I'm going to pop back to the middle after we've looked at the end. What I've told it here is that contents is a section, and this is this, and this is this. There's a piece. There's all sorts in there. It's a section of the show. It's a piece within a section, or it's the entire show. Okay. In fact, I've just realised I'm actually going to need here to select the top, or I won't get the front bit, and I want all of it. I want all of it. So I'm going to just whip back into there. Okay, now we should see I've got show at the top as well. So I have show, section, piece, section, piece. I've mapped everything correctly. If I didn't, if I went in there and chose something else, that's when it would break. But I've semantically marked up that MacBites episode to tell it, this is a piece of the show. This is a section of the show. This is the entire show. What I then did in the middle was tell it in terms of, this is the show, I want it to look like that. This bit's a section, I want it to look like that. And this is a piece, I want it to look like that. That's already done. So now all I need to do is export that. So I'm going to compile that, and we'll stick that on the desktop, and it will open up for us. And there it is. So I'll fold that up so you can see it made the full structure for me. That's the first page, which gives you the number and the title. If you're not a MacBites listener, you're wondering. I'm just going to say go listen to the show. And then I have the content of the show. There's my stuff that I copy and paste, my code I copy and paste, and I've got my contents. And if we shoot right down to the bottom, you can actually see the series sketch that I used to record the end of the show. There it is. All done. Now that is what we have on our screen when we're recording MacBites. But it's 64 pages long. And we don't want that as the show notes. So I would like show notes from this as well. This is the reason I use Scrivener, because I can do two completely different things. This time I'm going to say I want show notes this time from exactly the same material, but I'm going to get a completely different output. I want it to be a web page. I want it to be in HTML. So choose HTML, choose show notes, same content, same semantic markup, compile that. And we'll call that demo as well. and it will open that in Safari. And although it looks incredibly plain because it's got no CSS in it at the moment, that is the show notes. That is just plain HTML. So from exactly the same input, I got a completely different output. We used to have to do this by hand. And this is why, a couple of years back, I thought, I'm going to make Scrivener work if it kills me. This is why. Because it saves so much time. Absolutely saves a ton of time. There is lots more I could show you with Compile, but I just don't have any more time, I'm afraid. There's one other thing that I want to just point out to you very, very quickly, and then I'll wrap up, which is if you are fortunate enough, or otherwise, depending on how you feel about it, to have a MacBook Pro with a touch screen. Oh, that's not working. What's going on here? Let me run that. And let's try that again. Where are you tonight? I was going to show you Touche, but Touche, if you pardon the pun, is not working. Where are you and why aren't you working? Okay, you're not working. I'll try you again. I will close you and I will try you again. This is a software version of, there you are, that's what I want. Only you shouldn't be sat there, should you? You should be sat down here. Right, if you have a MacBook Pro with a touch bar, Scrivener is now supporting of it, very supportive of it, amazingly supportive of it. What you can do down here, and go back to the novel template. Right, what you can do here is you can actually interact with this. You can toggle off your binder. You're being a bit slow tonight, aren't you? Have a think about it, I would. There we go. Are you toggling on and off? You are, aren't you? You're thinking about it. There we go. You can do your split screens. You can go backwards and forwards. You can bring up your info or take your info away. Doesn't matter. Okay, you've got all these options. When you are working in here, though, so let's show the binder, show this. Let's get back to not having a split screen. You've got styles in here as well. So if I had it selected, I could go and choose a style. There's my highlighter. Or I could even choose styles. And it shows me all of my styles down here. Now, even if you don't have a MacBook Pro with a touchscreen, you could use Touche, just like I'm using Touche now, and it will actually work. It will make that. So let's have a look for my styles. Let's highlight it as code. Let's go in there and highlight that as code. I can actually go into there and do that from here. So there are some features, and this is completely customizable from Scrivener. Scrivener allows you to customize exactly what is on here. You could turn this into another interface for Scrivener in addition to what you already have, if it's easier for you to move down to the bottom. So it depends if you're used to it or not. But it is actually a very, very useful feature, because if I go into here, we don't want you, we want to do that. It's telling me typewriter scrolling's enabled, etc. But now, instead of just having, because if Touche wasn't there, that is my focus view. It doesn't give me much in the way of formatting at all, but Touche would. And this is a free application that you can just install on your Mac. So if you've got that MacBook Pro, fantastic. If you don't, or you would like to use this on your iMac or any other Mac, you can just use this free application and do it with that. Okay. I am done there, you will be glad to know. So let's get back into here and let's wrap up and go and have some chat. So just a very quick recap of all of that. That was 15 minutes longer than I hoped, but hey, there's so much to see. There is just so much to see. So we started off with interface changes, and it's really gone from quite a traditional looking Mac application to something that's much brighter, lighter, more modern. Everything's a little bit more subtle, and there are even more customizations. So if you remember back to the very beginning, if you can remember that far back, we looked at the preferences and said how they had been trimmed down and styled and were much better organised, to be honest, to find what you want. You've now got everything grouped within groups, and there's a consistency on the left-hand side of the interface. We then looked at that exciting new Corkboard view, which is the label thread view, which enables you to visualise your labels. So be it your point of view or locations or your progress, whatever, you can see that in a Corkboard view progressing from either left to right or top to bottom, depending on how you prefer it. We then looked at the bookmarking, the amazing new feature where you've got your document bookmarks and you've got your project bookmarks, and you can actually navigate that within a whole separate window. So project notes have become bookmarks and become much more functional in doing so. We looked at the custom metadata, of which there is 4 types. There is now text, but also checkboxes, lists and dates. And I showed you a list that enabled you to filter by the contents of that list as well. And we did some sorting with the dates and some playing around with the dates. Took a long time to look at the quick search box because it's just nothing short of amazing. But there was also a lot of other stuff that we looked at very briefly. Text styles, linguistic focus, copyholders, section layouts, and the new compile function. If you are looking for that app, which is called Touche, it is from redsweater.com, red-sweater.com/Touche. And that is completely free. It will emulate a MacBook Pro touch bar on your Mac. So if you want more training, do watch live. I will be putting more sessions on Scrivener in the coming weeks and months. You will find me at youtube.com/Elaine Giles. The next live one is actually in a couple of weeks, and it's actually Pixelmator Pro. Should that be released next week. But as I say, there will be more on Scrivener. In fact, if you can't wait for more on Scrivener, there is a whole hour and a bit session up there already, Scrivener for iOS, that I delivered when the iOS version was released last year in the summer. So I shall say, enjoy your writing, whatever that may be. I hope tonight you've seen that it isn't all about fiction for me. A lot of my writing is technical writing or it's podcast writing. Doesn't matter what writing it is, Scrivener is your friend. Whatever your writing is, enjoy it. And I will just say thank you very much for being with me. If you've made it this far, I'm amazed. Fantastic. Hit me up on any of that social media. Contact with me. Let me know what you think. You must have more questions. There's a lot more Scrivener can do. I would love to hear what they are. And as I say, that can form the basis of my future sessions, so I can address issues that you might have with it or features that you would like to know better. Just let me know. What I'm going to do now is head out into Q&A. The video on YouTube, when I finished editing it, will stop at this point. But if you want to get in contact with me, that's how you get in contact with me. So until we meet again, I will say I will see you next time, and good night.